Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Andy.
And my name's Az.
Welcome everyone. It's so good to see you all here. And instead of me telling people what's going to be on the show, we're going to get Andy to do it. So hopefully I've sent the right notes, and if not, he's not going to look good. But Andy, what have we got coming up on the show?
Loads of exciting stuff, including Brighton and Newcastle, believe it or not. If you can stay awake for that, then we have some more interesting stuff to talk about. Salah, Kane, Aguero and Hazard are on the agenda. Lots of heavy hitter talk this week, lots of knee-jerking, transferring players out, back in, fixtures, etc. So we're going to look at that. And then the usual stuff, so checking over our teams, rough with the smooth, and then going ahead to next week as well after that.
Excellent. And I'm going to come straight back to you, Andy, here. So I prepped you there, and now you can come straight back in because we're going to round up our game week scores. And you're top of the pile this week with 80 points. And you did something a bit unusual. What's the story behind your 80-point haul?
Yeah, this thing a bit interesting for once. I mentioned it last week that I was looking at bringing Kane in, Salah out for a hit. And again, second week in a row, it went down to Saturday morning. And I decided to just go for it. I just thought the chances of this going completely wrong, as in where I'm like 20, 30 points down, are almost zilch. So I'll just take the risk. In the end, part of the reason to get Kane in was also to get Richarlison in for Fulham, who obviously blanked. So didn't work out perfectly. I think I'm only about 4 points up on the deal, which isn't fantastic, but it didn't fail either. So happy about that. And then really, it's a story of defence again. Trippier and Doherty, 11 and 12 points. Bringing home the bacon. Obviously, Aguero getting his goal just before he got subbed off was nice. And Maddison and Jimenez just continue to tick over. No big hauls there, but constant 5, 6, 7 points every week. And kind of, as Tesco say, every little helps. So, yeah, good week. It was 84 minus the 4 point hit was 8, and I'm up into just inside the top 20k now. I don't think I've ever been this high this early on. So hopefully can kick on. But I've got in the back of my mind it's all about to go wrong. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's the trick, to stay there. Yeah, no, that's a really good start actually, and it was a bold move, I think, getting rid of Salah. I mean, I know it wasn't quite the fixture. So it wasn't, taking him out ahead of Cardiff or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no,
it was not a comfortable watch, I'll be honest. Especially the second half, obviously not so much. He came out. Yeah, the first half, I was a bit gutted not to have him for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes.
We spent pretty much all of last season and a bit of this season as well fearing Salah. And it's just hard to get out of that. Maybe we will, but we'll discuss that later. So I'm next, 66 points, pretty happy with that. I've gone up to 34k. Jumped about 20,000 places. So it's the previous week's wild card. It's still keeping on giving. Doherty and Trippier, my stars there. Very pleased with them. Hazard chipping in, Maddison as well, and this old Aguero Salah home captaincy thing. It's not getting me huge scores, but it's keeping me ticking over, and it's getting me above the kind of 50, 60 point mark most weeks, which I'm quite pleased about. Obviously Fraser, who I based my entire wildcard around, so he's the glue that makes it work. I'm wearing the Fraser tartan as well in his honour, but he's managed to blank again. So I still await my Fraser returns. But David, you're up next. Another good store and another good hangover from your wildcard.
Yeah, it's a similar story because I think we've discovered our wildcard teams are actually quite similar. So yeah, it's the same. The wild card the previous week is obviously picked over quite nicely because I had all those Wolves players that I benched 2 of them the previous week. Obviously planning to start them this week, and yeah, Patricio and Doherty getting some returns. And I don't have Trippier, so I can't pick that one up. But obviously I got Hazard and Captain Aguero and Jimenez, as I think Andy's already mentioned. It's just been ticking over. I love the guy. It's just when he's that sort of price. We're going to talk a little bit later about some forwards who are in the kind of 7 million bracket, but we've got a guy who just ticks over at 5.5. I think he's 5.6 now. I signed up at 5.5. As you say, the glue that holds your squad together. It's the devil's in the detail. A guy that cheap, ticking over. It's exactly what you want. So, yeah, positive. And I'm up to 98k now, and I think it's probably the highest I've been at this stage of the season as well. So, yeah, very positive.
There we go. We said before we came on air, this is your season, David.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get you. We're going to hold your hand and leap through the wheat fields of this season and take you into the top 10,000 for the first time. This is it.
Here we go.
As you're bringing up the rear, and I've
Again.
written here, here's Johnny though. So can't have been all bad.
I mean, Johnny pretty much saved a week. 56 points, disappointing again. Don't like being at the bottom of the pile for 2 weeks in a row. Just no Hazard. It's just killing me. I went into the Liverpool Chelsea game actually pretty happy. I think I probably had about 53 points or something with 3 Liverpool players to play, and Robertson, Mane, and Salah all got absolutely nothing between them. And then Alonso lost his clean sheet at the end. So it was just a painful end to the week, really. So the wild card's in play now. It's done. I'm going to try and... I feel like Andy said to me, he didn't understand why I played it. But I feel like I want to get... Every week, I'm just making transfers just to catch up with where you guys are. And you guys are, like 20 points ahead of me every week. It's getting stupid. So I want to get in some players now who I think you guys are going to be wanting to get soon. So I'm going to get Arnautovic in. I'm going to get Josie Holebas in, who keeps creating chances. Watford have got a really good run of fixtures coming up. Get Fabianski in for the good run, the goalkeeper. There's lots of get Sterling in. There's lots of players who not many people have, who I'm hoping can push me up the ranks and add a bit of excitement to my season. But it's stress. I mean, I'm normally drinking a beer. I've got a herbal tea tonight because the wild card is really stressing me out. So I'm trying to be chill.
Well, coming up a bit later, we're going to be talking about heavy hitters, and we're going to be talking about your wild card a bit in there, because this is a quite good chance for us to has a wild card now, how they would use it with all this kind of heavy hitter chat. And it's going to be interesting to see which ones you've gone for and which ones you haven't.
No pressure.
But meanwhile, over to you again, Az, for rough with the smooth. Have you got a couple of smooths and a couple of roughs for us this week?
Yeah, I thought I'd start with the roughs because there's not too many of them looking through the posts, and I was hoping that some people make me feel a bit better. I mean, I didn't have an awful week, but it wasn't great. But some people did.
I got to use my Here's Johnny tweet. I've been literally saving that up. Since you signed the guy.
I don't know what he was doing standing. When I saw, because I was watching it on on Soccer Saturday, and they said, "Oh, Doherty puts the ball in." I was like, "Oh, for God's sake, another assist!" I was like, "Johnny's there, and like on the penalty spot." I was like, "Okay, brilliant."
Wielding an axe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so roughs. Never Gun Owen. He took Walcott out for Richarlison, which is like the ultimate hindsight move, because that was a great move on paper. He did it for a hit though, so that's gotta hurt, because you're just losing points on that.
And if you're foolish enough to get Walcott in, at least stick with him.
It's like a parting shot, isn't it? Just as you lose him to get an assist. What's the matter? And there was a couple of these. Bench Patricio for Hart. So there's quite a few people who played Hart over keepers who got clean sheets. Podge, he had Tarkowski, who I was thinking about getting in when I wanted to get rid of Mendy, and then he got off after 30 minutes, and he said he had to suffer through the 90 minutes of Alonso, who was there. So didn't like that one. It's always annoying when your player gets subbed off at 30 minutes. So smooths, I mean, there's loads of these. Some of my favourites: Forza Papak, he sold Mendy, Salah and Kamara and bought in Doherty, Maddison and Captain Kane.
Okay.
So, I mean...
What for just 2 hits or one?
For a -4.
-4?
That's
okay.
pretty good transfers then.
That's hit of the season.
Incredible transfers there. Hasselbank forever took a -8. He took Mane, Pedro and Mendy out and bought in Hazard, Maddison and Doherty. So again, points everywhere for the players he bought in, and no points for the players he took out, which is the dream really. I mentioned to Christo Bisto, he's now top of my cash league. He wildcarded last week. He bought in Trippier, bought in Kane. I looked through his transfers for the week, and he just could not decide on a goalkeeper. He took Patricio out 3 times, put him back in 3 times, and then benched him for Hart. I just thought that was quite amusing. But he's up to 175th now, which is some season he's having. Chabby 15 did Salah to Sterling and captained him. Thought that was a great move. 14 points for Sterling. And last one, Calvin Valance. He used his free hit and got 109 points, which is his highest ever game week. He beat his team before the free hit by 70 points. Captain Sterling, bought in Goodmanson, Johnny, those kind of players. So 70 points for a free hit. Even if you use that in a double game week, you're still going to be, still not going to get that much.
No, I mean, that's wow. Because I'm definitely going to be using my free hit around the double game because I'm massively boring. But that just shows for those, if you can just nail that, because that's a huge score. Because a really good score is like say Andy getting 80. That's a huge score this week. But getting 20, 30 points above that, incredible stuff. Well, hopefully for our next section, we're going to be creating more smooth game weeks for people rather than rough ones. And we're going to start off by, as we always do, we talk about the player, the team, and the talking points that our community have been asking us about. And we're going to start with the player. And David, this is your section. So who's the player that people are talking about?
Yeah, so this week, the player that everyone's talking about, and he'll be very pleased about this because he's got an ego on him. That's Marko Arnautovic. Obviously, got another goal this weekend against Man United in one of the weirdest Man United displays I've ever seen in my life. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. So already this week, he's been signed by more than 115,000 FPL managers, and he's gone up in price again. He's back up to 7 million. And a lot of people are talking about him. I'm pretty sure one of you guys said you're thinking about getting him in. It's you as on your wild card. Yeah, so questions that have come in. FPLL said, Arnautovic, given his price tag, should we get him now before his fixture swing? Has he shown he can score against even in the difficult fixtures? So even before the fixture swing, probably going to be worth having. MT Pocket says, there's lots of interest for good reason. Are we considering Arnautovic, even though he has this ongoing knee problem and Noble's still on penalty? So a little bit of other things to get our teeth into there. And then Skull and Gnomes has said, West Ham as a whole seem to be one of the most visibly improved sides. Are there other Hammer options that we should be looking at other than Arnautovic? So let's start with you, Jay. What do you think?
Well, I'm keen. I've had Arnautovic for part of this season. He did me very well, particularly getting that haul against Everton. Got rid of him on a wild card because he was injured, so he got a blank there. And I'd like him back. Really, I'm just looking at the fixtures. And so currently I've got Mitrovic and Danny Ings. I'm quite happy to lose Danny Ings for Arnautovic. I think that's an upgrade. I'm not sure about Mitrovic at the moment. We'll see how he goes and see if Arnautovic outperforms. But yeah, I've got a kind of an Arnautovic entry plan at some point in the next few game weeks. I'm not in a huge rush. I just at some point. So he's got Brighton away. I think that's could be returns there. As a pessimistic Brighton fan, I think he may score in that. And then Tottenham at home. Well, we've seen he can score against the big players as well. And then he's got this wonderful run of Leicester away, Burnley at home, Huddersfield away. There's Man City to navigate, and then Newcastle away. So he's got some nice home and away fixtures there. And comparing that with Southampton and Fulham, it's kind of much of a muchness, really. They've also got 3 or 4 good fixtures, 2 or 3 bad ones as well. So I'm waiting and see. But I mean, I'm not waiting and see really about what what Arnautovic is like. I know what he's like. I know what you're going to get from him. And I think he's a great option. Yeah,
I mean, it makes total sense everyone's talking about him because, as you say, like even the Spurs game doesn't really scare people. I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm in an iron just to give a bit of balance because I'm actually happy with Mitrovic and Jimenez, and I can't really see a way around that. But I suppose if you've got a wild card, for example, I mean, is it a different way of looking at it because you've just got complete carte blanche for forward planning?
Yeah, I mean it's not an easy decision because there's quite a few strikers kind of performing now. So I think if you're looking at one of Kane or Aguero, really. You're looking at or both. Then you've got Mitrovic, who is still firing in the shots. So you've got Lacazette as well. So, and then if you've got a cheaper striker like Danny Ings, it's hard to kind of find the money to free him up. Also, a lot of people playing 5 in midfield. So if you've got Kane and Mitrovic, then you need to have a complete reshuffle. And it was one of the reasons why I decided to play the wild card because I'm just not that happy with Fraser. I think I was kind of chasing points a bit with him, and I think that slot can I can use that kind of. I'd rather have Arnautovic as a third midfielder than Fraser as a fifth. Right, Arnautovic as a third striker than Fraser as a fifth midfielder. So yeah, Arnautovic was one of the first people that I was kind of looking to bring in. I missed the price rise on him last night though, which is annoying. I know. Well, I bought in Kane and Mitrovic, and I was still kind of debating what to do with Aguero. I think I'm probably going to sell him now. Probably come on to that in a bit. But yeah, it'd have to be Aguero leaving for Arnautovic because I'm not comfortable selling Mitrovic or Kane. Definitely not selling Kane before Cardiff now. Yeah, I just think the fixtures get so good for him, and it's kind of a triple threat with him, really. You've got Arnautovic in form, who tends to go on these streaks where he scores really heavily. You've got West Ham, who've picked up loads of form as a team, and they seem to have a really good system now. And you've got the fixtures turning really nicely. So to me, getting Arnautovic now is just the perfect time to do it. So I'm looking forward to. I mean, I compared him with Mitrovic, and Mitrovic's stats are just unbelievable. Like, you forget just how many shots he has. So I don't know if selling Mitrovic for Arnautovic is the best option, especially when Mitrovic has Fulham and Huddersfield coming up in a row after this Arsenal match. But Arnautovic's stats are good. He has more touches in the penalty area than Mitrovic, but less shots. But he's a lot more clinical. So I'm definitely going forward with him, I think, and Aguero will be leaving.
I just wanted to add in quickly. I've just got those goal attempts up there, and it's worth mentioning them because they are quite impressive. So this season, Mitrovic had 31 goal attempts.
Crazy.
Arnautovic has 16. So obviously not as many minutes played there, but that really does indicate how kind of potent Mitrovic is at goal. And if he was slightly more accurate, wow. Yeah, that highlights, I think, the problem that people are facing with those strikers.
I mean, that's the way I look at it. Is I can't bring myself to take a guy like Mitrovic out, and he's the obvious straight swap, of course, because of the price. And last 3 appearances for Arnautovic, it's a total of 5 shots, 4 in the box, 3 on target. Because the touches in the box is worth talking about, but looking at the game at the weekend, he only had 2 shots, and he kind of dropped a little bit deeper. I think out of all the forwards, he completed more passes than any other forward in Gameweek 7, because he was dropping that little bit deeper and kind of almost doing a little bit like what Kane's been doing, and being more of a sort of creative kind of hub, whereas Mitrovic is just literally at the end of everything and he finishes it off. And that's the way I see it. I mean, Jimenez obviously has got some nasty-ish fixtures coming up, so maybe I could swap at a later date. I don't know, but I mean, I think we should definitely talk about sort of West Ham, the wider context. I mean, obviously there's the injury that Arnautovic has kind of been carrying, and then Noble, as we kind of found out today, is still on penalties. I mean, do those kind of factors come into the conversation, do you think, Andy?
I mean, I like Arnautovic anyway. I don't think not having penalties is a big deal because we saw what he did last year. I do wonder if, I think with the two wide players they bought, Yarmolenko and Anderson, I just wonder if maybe they'll nick a few points off Arnautovic this year compared to what he had last year, because he was the main man, and he still is. But those two are much better quality than what West Ham had last year. But at the same time, you'd hope that they would also, in turn, create more chances for him as well. So, I'm not too bothered about the penalty thing. I mean, potentially it makes Mark Noble an option at 4.9.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
Potentially, I don't know. 4.9, I mean, what value? There's not many options around there. So you never know. He's almost playing like a creator this year with a bit more protection around him. But yeah, I mean, Mark Noble is not on my wish list anytime soon, for sure. In terms of Arnautovic versus Mitrovic, I'm going to have to make the decision next week when I bring Salah back in for Kane. And originally I was looking at Mitrovic, and I still am, because I think in the short term, his fixtures are better over the next 4. Cardiff, Bournemouth and Huddersfield. I like the look of that. But the thing I like about Arnautovic, although they're kind of a bit more mixed, they go on for a long time, West Ham's fixtures of being pretty good. So I'm definitely looking at him. But I think I'm probably still going to stick with Mitrovic. I think he's the one I was looking at before. I'd like both. I've actually looked at even potentially swapping out a heavy hitter from forward line completely, going Mitrovic, Jimenez and Arnautovic, and just getting Sterling instead of Aguero as a potential option. I just think on wildcard, obviously it's easy to do. For me, it's, for people like me, it's going to take a few too many transfers to switch all that around. But I think that's an option. But West Ham, I mean, the problem they have, I think, is a bit like the teams we're going to talk about in a minute, is you look at Yarmolenko and Anderson and think, well, they've got the same fixtures, they're good options, but then they're the same price as players like Richarlison and Maddison. And right now, I just don't know if they're going to offer enough to take what I would call a punt on them. We always talk about getting ahead on players, so you're ahead of the curve, you get the points, then everyone else is kind of scrambling. But I just don't know if those two are doing it for me. So I'm not really looking at West Ham beyond Arnautovic for now. For me.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that particular game, Yarmolenko and Anderson getting those goals is obviously kind of why this people started talking about. I mean, Anderson's on set pieces, which I guess should be to his credit, but Yarmolenko especially. Obviously we all saw his miss against Chelsea the previous week, and then of course the nature of his goal against Man United was fortuitous at best. So, you know, I mean, those two particular options. I guess the only other thing that's just, I think is worth talking about on this particular subject is just the teams themselves. And obviously we sign FPL players for them as individuals. But I think the Everton game, for example, is one of those games that's worried people with Mitrovic, because Fulham do look like a team who just can capitulate because they suck at the back. And West Ham haven't been great, but obviously, you know, the morale they've got out of drawing with Chelsea, beating Man United, the two teams look like they're going in opposite sort of trajectories. And like I said, we do get players in for them as individuals, but sometimes the trajectory of the teams can make an impact. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely West Ham, definitely on the up, looking good. I think with Fulham, agree a bit. I think because they're so bad at the back, they're going to have to attack, which I think makes Mitrovic a nice option. And I think if the fixtures were a bit worse, I would probably be more wary. But I think Cardiff, Bournemouth, and Huddersfield can kind of boost any team. So, for me, I'm not too put off by Mitrovic, but I know what you're saying. Didn't look as good in the last fixture. I mean, it depends how quickly you've got to make the move. I mean, personally, I don't think there's a rush to get him in when it's Arsenal at home anyway. So maybe we can have another look at him then. But with the 3 fixtures they got coming up, I'd be hopeful that the points will continue. Then maybe you can look at switching.
I think it's also worth mentioning the defence as well. So as has already mentioned, Fabianski is a player I really rate as well. And I can start seeing once people who are wildcarding like as is this week and next week and the week after, especially over the international break, they're going to look at those fixtures and they're going to start looking at maybe Patricio at Wolves, and then they're also going to be looking at Fabianski. I think that's probably quite a good combination. You've got the player who's going to get you the saves, that's Fabianski, and then you've got the kind of more likely to get you the clean sheets.
Yep.
And that's quite a nice fit, I think. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to see how, I mean, I've got Joe Hart and I'm quite happy with him so far, but if I decide to move and I find myself able to make a goalkeeper transfer, yeah, I'll be getting Fabianski back in again.
You've got Diop as well at 4.3, who
because he's dropping you.
And I think you can make a case. I think if wildcarding more than anyone else, but Wan-Bissaka, I know he's an absolute beast, but you can sell him for 4.1. You're not going to want him in any fixtures for the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
Their fixture list is horrible. So actually moving up to someone like Diop actually just gives you another option. So it's something I'm thinking about if I've got a bit of cash in the bank.
Well, he's kind of everybody's darling right now, and but you know, as in Wan-Bissaka, I should say. But there's no reason for it anymore. I don't think we've taken him off the watch list, and it just. You're going to bench him if you got him. You're going to bench him for the next 6 weeks.
It'd be third sub probably every week. I would have thought his fixtures are just horrible.
Yeah, the fixtures turn. I mean, and speaking of fixtures, that brings us on to the teams we're going to discuss now. When we were planning this Scoutcast, because believe it or not, there is planning involved. I mentioned that there'd been lots of questions on these two teams. And for one of these teams, Andy's response was basically one of those emoticons, just the projectile vomits. So he's chosen to talk about these two teams. So I hope you won't be
chosen.
Chosen.
Yeah, I hope you're sat down for it. You're sat down for this edge of the seat stuff that's about to come.
So Andy, there's a couple of teams people have been asking us questions about. Fire away. Who are they and what are the questions?
So yeah, the two teams we're going to talk about are exciting stuff. Brighton and Newcastle. We'll probably make this last about an hour, and then we'll give Salah and Co about 5 minutes at the end. Yes, because their fixtures are turning. Newcastle have Man United away this week, but after that it gets really good. And Brighton, again, fixture swing for them. So 3 different questions. Jeans, FPL Addict, and a few others asking about Brighton. Which Seagulls players should we be considering for their dream run of fixtures? Bex, Newcastle have been awful so far, but have got great fixtures from now until Christmas. Should we be targeting their defensive assets? Yedlin is mentioned, Dubravka in goal. So this is the Sells as well. And Lego Mane, Newcastle travel to United, which is obviously a really bad fixture. Although maybe not at the moment. But after that, it's good until Christmas. So same kind of question. Are we tempted by Magpies assets? So we'll start with one of the Brighton boys so you can talk about your man Knockout. Joe, do you want to take over here?
Yeah, well, understandably, out of Brighton and Newcastle, it's Brighton are the team I'm most interested in. And it's because I think there are cheap options across all of the positions. So especially if those are trying to get, say, Harry Kane in, maybe, we'll speak about later, and they're looking for some kind of make weight somewhere, well, Brighton are the good place to go. As those fixtures, I mean, there's too many to read out. I kind of stopped printing them off, but I got up to about game week 16, 17, 18, and it's just blue. The couple, I think there's a one red somewhere in the midst of December, but they're all great fixtures, and there's all potential to do well. So Murray up front, I think he's great value, and I think he's still rolling back the years, as they say. Knockhart, he's the best.
City, though.
Well, sorry.
Murray didn't play against City.
No, he didn't, because I suspect one of the reasons is that it's just simply not a game they were going to win. It's not a game they were going to target. So it's a question of just kind of see what you can get from it. Murray's being preserved for the nice, easy games, I would imagine. They absolutely need him. So that's the aim, really. Knockhart, he's the most creative one amongst them. Duffy as well is finally this season delivering on the promise that me and Az were talking about all the last season. Duffy, goal scoring threat. He didn't deliver this season. He is, and Ryan as well. Absolutely, another great one of the many great 4.5 options. Great fixtures. There's going to be clean sheets there. There's going to be save points. Just to go back to Knockhart, in terms of Brighton players over the season so far, he has created 11 chances. That's top for Brighton assets. He's had 11 corners. That's top for Brighton. Shares that with Gross, so joint top, and 14 shots. That's even more than Murray. And he's a joint with Murray for shots on target. Last season, he had problems with his mental health. He's got over that. He's had various treatment for that, so it's all fine there, hopefully. And he's going back to how he was in the Championship, but with Premier League form. He is a player to get in. Just to quickly mention Newcastle, none of them really compare with the mighty Brighton there. But if you are minded to go for a Newcastle, Ritchie is probably the one to get. He started 6 games. He's the man on corners. He's created a few chances, and he's okay for baseline bonus. Yedlin as well, I think 4.5. I think he's really good value. I know that certain one of us here already has Yedlin in, and we started seeing Yedlin in a few wildcards over the last couple of weeks, and people were scratching their heads going, "Why?" Well, this section reveals why.
Yeah, I'm the Yedlin owner. People are wondering who the schmuck is who got him in. That'll be this guy. And yeah, I got off. I got a bit like, why you got Yedlin in your squad for? And yeah, that's when I pointed people in the direction of the fixtures. And
why have you got Yedlin though?
Well, I mean, I had a slot that I felt like I didn't need. I just felt like, well, I don't really know to stick in there. So I thought, well, let's just have a look at the fixtures and see what I can wangle in. And yeah, I mean, Newcastle's run was nice. And in terms of defensive option, I kind of just rate a Benitez team defensively better than a Houghton one. I think in the last sort of 12 months, I've just seen more from Newcastle that tells me they could keep a clean sheet. I mean, it's not going great for them, and I think they've tailed off since I actually signed Yedlin. But for me, if you're going to get a Newcastle defender, he's kind of like the obvious one, because Dubravka's just too expensive. I don't know why anyone ever thought 5 million was a good price for Dubravka start of the season. That's just mad. Lascelles is the same. I think he's 4.8 now. And then the centre back situation isn't that set in stone. So I mean, you've got Cher, you've got Lejeune when he comes back from injury, you've got Clark, and then you've got Lascelles all kind of competing. Lascelles will obviously play, but he's too expensive. And then left back is uncertain as well, because you've got Dummett could play there, Clark can play there, and then for some reason apparently Kennedy can play there. No idea why. And that has actually happened. For some reason, Kennedy has actually been played.
He's been a disappointment, isn't he, this season? Yeah. We all thought he was going to be like the best 5 mil option. He's
been boring.
Yeah. It's like
Yedlin just makes sense because he's just the only one who's nailed on to start. If you want a Newcastle defender, so that's why I've got him.
I was going to say with Kennedy in Kennedy's loft is a picture, and it's basically got Richarlison on it, so it's like Dorian Gray there. And but meanwhile, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, for me, like I actually looked at Yedlin on my wildcard as well. I didn't go for it in the end, but I think he's probably the only one I consider right now from Newcastle. I think their strikers kind of.
Wait, they have strikers?
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit. It's a bit like when I was mentioning the West Ham mids. Like, yeah, they've got options like Ritchie and co. But I mean, instead of Ritchie, you want Fraser or maybe even Knockhart. And then up front, we've already mentioned how many good forward options there are that cheap. So I just don't think there's anyone from Newcastle I really want apart from Yedlin. And again, I wouldn't probably be in a rush to get him. And then Brighton, I'll be honest, I've not seen enough of Brighton to make a judgment on Knockhart. I know a lot of people in the chat are saying it's a bit of a trap, and that maybe Gross could be back and take some of his set pieces. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that in a sec. But stats-wise, looks really good. Quite impressed with 5.5. I still think Fraser is an option at that price. So I've got to bow down to Murray, because when I saw his age last year, I thought there's no way he's going to make it out of this season. And now he's moving on to this season, still the star man up front on penalties. So again, I think he's a good option. I just don't know if I could put him in my team ahead of the likes of Mitrovic or Arnautovic and even Jimenez, who I've already got, who's cheaper. So I think Brighton have got the better options. There's just other players I like at those price points. I mean, I've got Ryan. I got him on my wild card, which up until this point has been a big mistake. But it was this fixture run in mind why I got him in. So hopefully some clean sheets can come from here. So yeah, Brighton okay, Newcastle not for me. I don't know what you think, Az, because you're quite on knockout as well, right?
I was. He was when I did my wildcard team. I was sure I was going to have him in. Then I remembered, I've watched quite a few games of Brighton. The trouble with knockouts, he drops back a lot. He plays, he's just everywhere. But he's not always in the attacking places where you want him to be. He's more attacking than he was maybe last year, but he still tracks back a lot. And if you have a look at his heat map, it's not great. Like when you compare it to someone like Richarlison or someone who's a lot more attacking, he's asked to do more of a defensive job, which worries me a bit. Also, Brighton haven't won away from home since November, I think, last year. So already I'm looking at away matches as being a problem for Brighton in general. And actually the short-term fixture list, although it's blue on the ticker, I still don't think it's that great. West Ham at home, Newcastle away, okay, that's fair, but Brighton's got that poor away record. Wolves at home, Wolves are flying, and then Everton away, and then it gets good with Cardiff away, Leicester at home, Huddersfield. So I think, if we're thinking that these next few games should be relatively, there should be some points in there, relatively straightforward, more so than the previous games. And I think you've got a few games to monitor Knockout and to see how he does. It's defensively where I think, when game week 12, I think, where Ryan as a set and forget could work, or you could bring in a Duffy or a Dunk. But for now, I just think there's a little bit too much uncertainty around them. So I think
that point you make about the fixtures, about them getting it's a sea of blue, but they become really nicely blue from about kind of game week 11, 12. You get Everton, Cardiff, and then you've got Huddersfield a bit after that. And coincidentally, that coincides with Bournemouth's awful run of fixtures. So in game weeks 11 to 16, Brighton have Everton, Cardiff, Leicester, Huddersfield, Crystal Palace and Burnley. Over that stretch, Bournemouth have Manchester United, Arsenal, City and Liverpool, as well as Newcastle and Huddersfield. So that's 4 pretty awful fixtures. I'm not quite sure Fraser is fixture. I mean, currently he's blanked me twice. I'm not even sure he can score for me yet. But I don't think of Fraser and go, aha, fixture proof, like at Arnautovic. And I just think that could be the time when I'll be considering a swap there, because it's such an easy one to make as well, because it's similar price.
So basically the conclusion is they're both rubbish. We're not getting any of their players. Now we get not yet.
Well, no, I think Brighton are good options. I think Duffy, Murray, Knockout.
Duffy's in my bad books because I had him for almost all of last season, waiting for that goal. He's already got 4 attacking returns this season.
He's doing it now. But it's definitely, if perhaps have a look at the next 2 or 3 fixtures and then see. And then, as I said, from that switch, game week 11, that's when Fraser start really getting bad as well. And people were having Wilson as well. Perhaps they might think, well, hang on a minute, I'll get that old geezer from the South Coast instead.
My gut tells me that Knockout isn't a great FPL option. So, and it's a shame because I really want a Brighton player, but yeah, I'm just not convinced.
Okay, well, we got some time to look at that, I think, over the next few games, because they've got a few easy games to try them out. But now on to the talking point, and obviously we could talk about Newcastle options all night, as Andy said, and we really wanted to, but for some reason, as there's a few other players that people are talking about, we jumped them all together because they're all very expensive and we can't have them all. So what's this talking point all about?
Yeah, for some reason, people want to know about premium price players rather than 5.5 midfielders playing for Brighton. So Kane and Hazard are, continuously racking up good scores. Aguero still tucking them away despite limited minutes. Salah's stats are still really good and keeps scoring at home. Then you've got Sterling, you've got KDB coming back. So the question is, which heavy hitter are we looking at for game week 8? And there's some questions from the community here. Karan 14. says, should we be shifting premium assets based on fixtures, as it is more likely they will get big hauls and be more consistent when they have good fixtures? Rhinos says, do we put too much emphasis on value? Salah is clearly not justifying his price, but man, those fixtures look good from game week 9. The rumour mill says Aguero is the most owned player in the game, a safe captaincy pick every week. He's returned in each of his last 5 games. However, he's managing an injury, hasn't made it past 65 minutes for 4 weeks, and hasn't scored over 8 points for 5 games. Is it the time to jump off, or is it too risky? And lastly, Gene says, is Aguero to Kane an evil trap? So, what do you think? Andy?
All I could hear on Saturday evening was a bunch of knees jerking as people kept Salah for good fixtures that are coming up, and then he blanks in a tough fixture, and suddenly he's not worth 12.9 million. So people want Kane because he's obviously scored 2 goals, and they think he's going to do it again against Cardiff, and that's fair. I can't begrudge anyone bringing him in. I've already done it myself. He's going to be the top captain, I think, this week as well. I mean, which ones, to answer the question straight away, I think it's very tough to fit 4 in, especially if you've not got a wild card. So I think it's got to be 3. And for me, after this week, Kane's gone, and I'm going to go with Salah, Aguero, and Hazard. And Sterling's probably the one that I would like, but I just can't really fit in. And I think there's very good reason to get him. His points per games are good. They were great last year. He's in Man. We don't need to talk about how good Man City are. And so for his price, I think he could probably match, even maybe outscore Hazard. Obviously, he doesn't have penalties to back it up. But yeah, I think Sterling's a great option. But for me, just on the Salah thing, I think, or on the Kane switch, which is coming from Salah or Aguero out, I think I said last week that I was considering it and it was a short-term move. It's even shorter now. It's only 1 game and you could keep him longer. But I think even though, a bit like Brighton, the teams they're playing on kind of fixture tickers and stuff are probably quite good, but I just think there's a way against Palace and Wolves, and then there's a way against West Ham. I think they're the next 3 of the next 4 after this game. And when I looked at kind of, I'm looking at the big hitters about when I want to captain them. And after this week, I won't captain Kane until game week 15. So that is, if we're talking about value, that's too long to have a 12.5 million player, I think, that I'm not going to captain. Whereas Salah, who apparently is now not worth it, has... And bearing in mind, the reason we want Kane is because he's got his form back against rubbish teams, Brighton and Huddersfield and now Cardiff. Salah's about to play Huddersfield, Cardiff and Fulham in 3 of the next 4 fixtures after Man City. So when I got rid of Salah, I think Man City was probably the one I worried about a bit more because it's at Anfield. So I feel like I got away with it against Chelsea. I'm a bit worried about what he's going to do to me against Man City. But right now, unless anyone can talk me out of it, I have absolutely no hesitation about bringing Salah straight back in. Even if Kane scores a hat-trick against Cardiff, I still think I will make that switch. And then, not to prolong it too much, but Aguero, I think the fact that he's been carrying a knock and Jesus hasn't had a look in just makes him even more appealing for me because once he's fully fit, who knows what he can do? He's got 9 attacking returns already in 7 fixtures, while apparently not 100% fit, and Jesus barely got a sniff. So for me, I'm going to keep Aguero, but I do concede that Sterling's a great option as well. It's just very tough to fit them all in. So, yes, for me, Salah, straight back in.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at these players. I mean, Hazard, I put a little star next to his name because I think, that he's not even being talked about as someone droppable because he's returning, he's in form, he's doing everything you want from a player like that. So Hazard's there. My thoughts are the rest of the options are, it's so tough. It's so difficult to know who the best options are. On the wild cards, I've gone for Kane, Hazard, and I've got Sterling in. My plan is a little bit similar to yours, Andy, but I won't be getting Salah back in for that Huddersfield game. My plan is to go hard on City when everyone's clamouring to get Liverpool players because Liverpool playing away at Huddersfield, they've got a few options now in the team. So Shaqiri and Sturridge, looked good when they came on and Sturridge scored that goal. I'm a little bit concerned about minutes for Salah and Mane. I might be completely wrong about that, but I'm happy to give them that Huddersfield game just to see what happens in that game because I fancy Aguero and Sterling in that Burnley match to, match anything Salah and Mane can do. So I'm going on those. And then, so my plan is get Kane in for this week, captain him, take him out for Aguero next week. So do a bit of a hokey-cokey with my strikers, which I've done to mixed effect in the past. But I think, long term, I think you're right. I think Kane isn't to me a long-term prospect with the fixtures and the fact he's playing so deep. I just think this Cardiff game is just so good that I just want him. And I think, if he gets 15, 20 points, there isn't the other captaincy option this week is what Hazard, away to Southampton, which I don't know. I'm not really feeling that game. So the fact I didn't really have a captain who I felt totally confident on is what made me really want Kane this week. It lets me sort out some other problems. And I think, going with 2 City attackers for that Burnley game, and people are still overlooking Sterling, and he's scoring points every week. And I think, at the moment, I'd take Sterling over Salah any day. So, that's my plan. What about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm really an iron about getting Kane in. I know that this Cardiff game is really appealing, but I don't know. As you say, it doesn't feel like a long-term option. I think I got 2 ways I could do it. I could either, basically, it'll be Aguero who'd have to go because I don't want to get rid of Salah. Because actually, I think Salah's gonna. I would back Salah to score against Man City more than I would back Aguero to score away at Liverpool. So I want to keep Salah, but then that means I've got to downgrade elsewhere. So then that would mean I'd probably downgrade David Silva because he's the only other one I'd want to get rid of. And then I've got no City cover. And then I've got to rejig back into that. And that's not an option for me. And I mean, the reason I was thinking about it earlier in the week, but as in getting Kane in. And with each day, I feel less and less inclined to do it because I've done something on the website today and just kind of going through the numbers and positioning. And sort of like the too long didn't read version is heat map, he's in the box less. Creativity is up in the sense that he's dropping deeper, so he's making more passes. His goal threat's down. I think he's compared to last season, first 7 game weeks of each season. He was 44 shots first 7 game weeks of last season. It's 20, so it's like it's less than half last season. And then when you look at the fixtures around that, Cardiff is the only one that really kind of stands out. Spurs are missing key players as well. So Eriksen's out, Ali's out. Dembele's out, and while it's Cardiff, basically when you look at the chances they created against Huddersfield, they were basically down compared to the first 6 game weeks because they didn't have Ali, didn't have Eriksen. So there's so many reasons not to get Kane for this week and maybe use my transfer elsewhere. I mean, it may come back to bite me because I still think Kane will do something, but it's just about how you manage the transfers.
I actually think you're probably right. It's much easier for me to say that because I already own him, so I don't have to worry about it. But I just think I said it last week when I was considering doing the move that I was trying to get Kane in for the captaincy, basically trying to not captain Hazard, who is in one of the best players in form so far this season. And arguably, the way he's been playing and the amount of points he's been getting, he is already our set and forget captain option. And yet I'm trying to actively not captain him against Southampton, which doesn't seem right. So I personally feel like if it's going to cost you any more than 4 points to get him out and back in, or in and back out even, then I just think that's a no for me. And even if it costs 4 points this week, I mean that's what it cost me, but I did it for 2 games.
I don't think you can justify it for 4 points. For one
I
game.
just think with Hazard in such good form, Kane is the better captain option, of course. I just think Hazard is nearly as good, and he doesn't cost you any points if you've already got him. Now, if you haven't got either, then it's a different question, of course. But I can see why you're not doing it. To be honest, I'm kind of with you there.
Well, I think the conclusion that we came to on last week's episode was that now was Kane time, and that was a week ago because there was 2 fixtures. So obviously, like you said, Andy, you're in a position where you don't have to do anything this week, and your decisions are in the future in terms of how and you've already decided you're probably going to get rid. So anyone who's doing it now, it's worth less because they've already missed out on the Huddersfield points, and realistically, all they're going to get is Cardiff, and then past that, I think both Salah and Aguero are scoring over those next couple of games, and people are worried. I mean, people are talking about the Aguero sort of knock. He's not in the Argentina squad, so he's going to get another rest over the international break, and I'd like to think that that's going to give him enough time just to get right again, and then sort of underneath that. He's not fit, and yet Jesus isn't getting a look in, as we've already said. So once he's back to full fitness, I mean, Aguero is just. Of course, Sterling obviously complicates it, but I think if you've got Salah and Hazard, kind of hard to get.
I would not feel confident going without Aguero long term.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what do you think, Joe?
Well, I mean, looking ahead, I really want Kane for game week 8 against Cardiff, who. And I'm going to be fair here to Cardiff. I am.
You're always fair to Cardiff. You're always fair.
They are the worst sporting side of any sport, of anywhere in Europe, in any competition, at any age group or level.
I'm glad you said Europe, because the Cleveland Browns, they're worse.
Because I understand there are some worse teams than them in the Americas.
It's like every week you raise the bar of your hatred for Cardiff.
Don't worry, it can get worse. It can get worse, but it gets worse as Cardiff gets worse. So as soon as they start getting better, I'll rein it in and I'll say that they're a mid-table side, but they're not. They're awful. But so I am definitely like that, because he is on paper the best captaincy option. He checking the Rate My Team computer on Fantasy Football Scout and the captain poll there. So he's top, on paper, the best option. And he's going to be the most popular captaincy choice. For those that don't own him and don't captain him, if he gets a 13, 15 point haul, which is incredibly likely, there you go. That's a 20, 30 point gap there opened up. So I don't want that. I'm in a lucky position. I've got 2 free transfers. So I am going to hokey cokey, but a different hokey cokey. So I'm going to keep Salah. I want to keep Salah long term. I want Kane for this week. I don't necessarily want Kane for game week 9, but I'm also happy to keep him for game week 9. I want Aguero then. So I'm going to use my 2 free transfers to free up some money, get rid of Aguero for Kane. I'm also probably going to downgrade Robertson to Terence Trent D'Arby from the Liverpool Soul Machine there. And I definitely want to get Aguero back again, which sounds a bit odd on paper. People go, oh, look at you using up all those transfers. But I've got those 2 free transfers. It shouldn't take me a hit to do that. If for some unforeseen reason something weird happens and I don't want to get Aguero for some reason, I'm happy to keep Kane against West Ham. He's got a great record against West Ham. If anything, that move back to Aguero could bite me. So, I mean, another thing, I was looking at captains, and captains is really important when you're talking about these players, because these are the ones you want. So game week 8, Kane home to Cardiff, captain for me. Game week 9, Aguero home to Burnley, or Salah away to Huddersfield. I'm happy with either of them. Game week 10, Salah home to Cardiff. I want people getting rid of Salah now need to be getting him back for there. I've already mentioned Cardiff's failures as a sporting unit. Game week 11, Aguero home to Southampton. I want that for captaincy. Game week 12, back to Salah again for home to Southampton. This is good. And then Hazard for game week 13, move over to him, home to Everton. I like the look of Hazard against Everton. I don't think their defence is good. And I've probably got, I'm sure the who got the assist boys will have some psychoanalysis reason why I'm looking at that. But I seem to remember Hazard absolutely pummeling Everton in the past. So that's
3 that he scored a hat-trick in. Is that right?
It was, yeah. So I look at those fixtures. But the point of all of those fixtures and all the people I mentioned there is that Kane hasn't been mentioned at all past game week 8. And as Andy said, I wouldn't really want Kane long term. I think also this kind of hokey-cokey thing we're talking about, you've got to be in a certain position to do it. It's not worth a point here. So I'm okay with 2 free transfers. Az is completely fine doing it because he's got a wild card. Andy's fine doing it because he's already done part of that move. It's gone. He's had a great game week score, so he doesn't have to worry about it. He can get them back in. So yeah, but and David, you also have 2 free transfers, so you could do it, but you're a bit more hesitant. But nevertheless, I think it's a viable option. And I also think transfers are precious, and I am using a number of transfers over essentially one move. But I think there could be a 20 to 30% swing to the Kanistas this week. I just don't want to miss at that.
Here's a question for you then. So I looked at the same captains and kind of came to the same conclusion that basically if you've got Kane this week, you're not going to captain Hazard for another 5 game weeks. So if you had a choice right now between, no points that you could just put one on your team, between Sterling and Hazard, would you still pick Hazard? Because obviously you're going to captain Aguero if that's the guy you've got right now. But if you're saying that Man City's fixtures are better than Chelsea's, then is Sterling a better option than Hazard?
Yeah, no, I think Hazard for me is the better option because I got Hazard at 10.5, 10.6, and what is he now? 11.1. And Sterling is that price there. If I want to double up on Man City, and I don't discourage anyone to do that, but you need a bit more cash spare. Well, De Bruyne is probably back after the international break. He's what, 9.7, 9.9, something, whatever it is, he's underpriced. Sterling is still, I think, either, at best well priced, but perhaps a little bit overpriced considering Hazard started at 10.5. So I look at Sterling, and once again, like I've been doing with Aguero, I look at Sterling, I look at De Bruyne, and I just think De Bruyne is just going to offer me that spare 1.2, which would enable something like, for example, to get a much better defender in, get a kind of, say if I didn't have Trippier, get Trippier in, that kind of thing. And Arnautovic in as well up front. It's that kind of thing that enables you to do so. But it's a great point, Andy, because I think Man City could get overlooked. And I'm not making this move to think, I'm getting rid of Aguero long term. I don't think anyone should think that, because he is nursing a foot injury. He played 90 minutes midweek. He's never scored at Anfield, I believe. I just can't see a big score this weekend.
I think Hazard is the main part in that team, whereas Sterling is an important part, but not the key
Hazard
part.
is the absolute talisman. Sterling is a mini talisman.
He did get 35 attacking returns last year, and he's already got 6 in the 6 games he's played. So like he's already on track to do it again.
I'm excited, especially with De Bruyne coming back. I think it's. Can I say one thing on well, not one thing, many things on Salah, because
No, you can only say one thing.
The way people are talking about him everywhere is that you need him in for this run of fixtures. Like, he's 12.9 million, which is a crazy price, really. He doesn't get bonus points. He's missing easy chances. Confidence is low. He's getting subbed at 60 minutes when they're chasing a match in their most important game of the season. They've got options now with Sturridge and Shaqiri, which they didn't have last season. I just don't think he's worth it. I just don't think he's worth the money. I would rather spend 10 million on Mane, who also doesn't look particularly good, or even go for Firmino at 9.4.
There is no way you will not have Salah in your team for Cardiff at home. There is no way. I will bet money on it. I agree.
If Salah blanks against City and then at Huddersfield, I won't have Salah in my team for Cardiff.
If Salah blanks against Huddersfield and Cardiff, then he should leave the Premier League and the country. Because
I agree with the price thing. We talked about it last week about, and I said no, 12.9 million. You've got to do a lot to match that. Even, I mean, if you match last year, then he's worth 12.9 million. But you don't, as we're showing right now, you don't have to have these players for the whole season. So yes, over the course of the season, maybe he's not worth 12.9 million. But when he's going to be, again, we might not need to captain him against Huddersfield, probably captain a Man City player. But for Cardiff and Fulham, I think he's the standout option. So for those kind of 3 out of 4 weeks, I really want him
like Kane, isn't it? Like, you want to bring Kane into the game and take him out. And I think, Salah is kind of that player, but
he's not going to get taken off at 65 minutes too many more times. And I think he did get taken off against Man City at half time last year. I mean, they were down to 10 men to different circumstances. In this one, they were chasing the game. So I was a bit surprised to see him get pulled off.
It would be a lot easier for my team if I went for Mane. I could easily do it without a hit. Whereas I'll be taking a 4-point hit for Salah for a player who I don't really believe in, long term. And Mane has been matching Salah all season.
Yeah, I mean, the bonus points are a problem over the short term, because if he's not going to get them it doesn't matter over the long term when he's getting 300 points. But the beauty of Kane is he scores a goal, he gets 3 bonus points. If he doesn't, he's got a penalty to fall back on. Salah doesn't have that. So yeah, it is. I don't want to say a risk. I don't want to live in a world where Salah against Cardiff at home is not straight in my team.
No, I know what you mean. I just think, like, I don't know, like there are options. I don't think it's completely ridiculous to.
I do think people are. He blanked against Chelsea, a tough fixture, and people are now saying, like, there was a lot of people that didn't have him already. That's fair enough, but I think a lot of people kept him for these good fixtures. But then the blank against Chelsea is kind of turned.
Sub though. It's that sub. It's the sub that worries me the most.
Chasing the game.
How often are they going to be chasing the game? Especially against Huddersfield.
I mean, I guess the answer to that question is if they're 3-0 up, then if you can take him off when they're 1-0 down in the biggest game of the season, you can take him off when they're 3-0 up against some nap opposition like Cardiff, I guess. Because
if they're 3-0 up, how often is he not going to be on?
I think the fixture congestion in September is particularly bad. They had particularly tricky games all coming at once. I believe their next kind of after the international break, the next set of Champions League games is kind of head-to-heads against Red Star, which is not, obviously that's not as big as say Napoli or other teams, or Chelsea or Man City. So their fixtures are easier on the league front. They're easier in Champions League as well. I think it's been a bit different, and he probably he's got these good fixtures coming up. I just think later into October, I don't think we're going to be seeing that many subbing from Salah as well. I just think, it all going to depend how he comes back after the international break, but I don't think it's a particularly confidence thing with him. I think he's looked pretty good myself, and I've been captaining him a lot this season, and he's still been getting me returns. nice, slow and steady wins the race and all that. And I think that's what Salah offers people.
Yeah,
I think the Man City game will be. I still think he can get returns in that. I mean, I know it's sort of, I guess, kind of, I don't want to say revisionist, but like looking back on the games that Liverpool played against Man City last year at Anfield, they owned them. They really owned them because they're one of the few teams that can actually shut that system down because they've got the energy to press in the areas where Man City basically are tactically inept, and that's effectively in the fullback position.
Yeah, I mean, he can get.
I think that'll happen again.
You get returns in any game. I'm just looking. I wouldn't trust him with the captaincy when you've got so many options in Hazard and Sterling and other players. I mean, the Cardiff game is the big one, obviously.
But I think a lot of it will just depend on that City game, because if he does return against City, then that all of a sudden just kind of changes the way everybody looks at it. Because, like you all said at the start of this sort of section, like the thing with Salah is everyone's gone, well, yeah, we should keep him because there's through the tough fixtures, because the fixtures look nice. And then if he blanks against Chelsea, why is everyone kind of shocked? Because it's a tough fixture, so give him credit where credit's due, and he did look like he could score. I think that's the key. Is a lot sometimes. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Football fans everywhere, like memory is only as short as the most recent game, and like you say, everyone was a plan to keep him, and then when what we thought would happen happened anyway. People are worried all of a sudden. It's just, I think Man City could, if he scores there, it changes everything, and then we're all sat people without Salah before that Cardiff game. Well, if he can score 2 against Man City, then he's going to score 10 against Cardiff, and it's just I don't know. Just a lot of it's mental, isn't it? Like it's all in your head about Salah fear, effectively. I think that's what.
I think also the thing about, because a lot of people are thinking of getting Kane in, and so it's either Aguero or Salah are going to make way. But the Aguero one makes sense to me if you can free up money elsewhere, because it's one move back in. So Kane back to Aguero. So say they come back after the international break, you don't have Aguero, you've got Kane, and Aguero scores a hat-trick against Burnley, very likely could happen, and then that's an easy move back in. Then you've got Aguero sitting pretty. But if you're doing some kind of move with Salah coming out as well, and you're not like Andy, as in you hadn't already done it, you've got problems, because you've got to spend 2 transfers because you're moving positions, and then you've got to get another 2 transfers back. There's definitely going to be a hit involved there, and I think that's the problem. And that's also irrespective of underlying stats and goal threat and all of these types of things. It's just playing the game and trying to maneuver your 15 players around the fixtures and form. And I just think if you want to get Kane in, do it with Aguero, because it's easy to get Aguero back in from Kane. But if you're doing it with Salah, I think it's almost, you have to think long term, because that's quite tricky to get him back in again, unless you're lucky like Andy that already done it.
But the other thing that I think is interesting on this sort of debate, we haven't really touched on it, and I think a lot of us kind of would agree anyway. I think it's fairly obvious, but with Kane, if you're looking at that Cardiff game, you basically have to get Kane. I think just as an aside on the article I did on the website, there's not really anyone else at Spurs who can offer anything that's even remotely the same. So I say if anyone's thinking of going, I might fancy Moura or Son, just don't do it. When you look at the last 4 games, Kane's had 12 shots, all in the box. And then second place for shots in the last 4 at Spurs is Moura with 4. So no one's even halfway to Kane. So the only one I reckon you could be happy with maybe is Trippier, I guess, because he'd probably get a clean sheet. That's equivalent to 1 goal. Attacking returns, he's assisted 2 of Kane's last 3 goals. So, if people are thinking like me, maybe I won't get Kane, and you've got Trippier. I said earlier this week, I should have mentioned Trippier in the captain video. I'll do it now. Trippier is probably worth considering just because he offers that multiple avenue.
And if he plays at wing back again. I saw that team sheet and I thought, Trippier is going to have a blinding.
Tongue is injured though, isn't he? That's the only problem for that. I think they might go back to 4. But even then, he's still very attacking.
Well, Aurier's out definitely of that game. So, I mean, you can be absolutely certain that Trippier is going to play.
But Tottenham as well, I think.
I don't want to say that Trippier can cover Kane, because you can never really cover attacking players. But basically, Trippier is pretty much the only one who can come close. And because I've seen people out there thinking maybe Son, maybe more, but just don't go there. If you're going to get first place,
I'm not sure I like this. All these words against Heung-min Son, like he's a legend, that guy.
Hey, well,
that leads us quite nicely on, doesn't it?
Andy, that was segue of the season. That was good, because now we're going to look ahead to Gameweek 8 in a bit of detail, and our spot the differential picks, and our clean sheets, and our plans as well. So over to you, Az. spot the differential.
So
first.
everyone had a blinding spot the differential last week, except for me.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear, mate.
Yeah, loser.
I foolishly tweeted David when Sigurdsson missed the penalty to mock him.
Absolute gold moment. I didn't even see that tweet until like 5:30 because I was so busy. I clicked on it, I giggled, and I saw every single reply was, "Well, this tweet aged well." I was just like, "Yes, it did. Yes, it did."
Not my finest moment.
It was literally 60 seconds later, and he's in the back of the net.
Especially not when I'm sitting with Ali, who didn't play. Yeah, it wasn't great. So, Andy, you're up first this week. You went for Vardy last week, who got 8 points, which brings you up to 2 out of 3 right for the season. Who have you gone for this week?
Yeah, I didn't really mention it when we were chatting about Kane as a heavy hitter, but I watched that Huddersfield and Spurs game, and I actually didn't think Spurs were that good. And anytime anyone's asked me what midfielder to go for, I'm not really liking any of them. But it is Cardiff, and I've got to pick a differential. This guy's only 2% owned, and it is Son. I think he's going to play again. We'll have to see what happens during the week, but I think he's going to play again at the weekend. And I think I know Moore is doing okay, but I mean, Son has always been kind of the main man there if Kane and Ali and Eriksen aren't performing. And I just think if you're going to punt on anyone this week, and I may even bring him in, we'll come to that in a sec. I think Cardiff at home doesn't get much better. So Son for me, only 2% owned.
Andy, what's happened to you? You've become so maverick lately. It's exciting.
Makes things a bit more interesting.
Yeah. So Joe, you're up next. You went for Sterling last week. I'm glad we don't call this like risks anymore. I'm glad it's differentials because, Sterling as a risk wouldn't really work. He got 14 points, so delivered for you. That was your first one right of the season, so you're off the mark. Who have you gone for this week?
Yes, well, I mean, basically, I'm going to admit I cheated really, getting Sterling in on a differential because people just aren't buying him for some reason is cheating. So I cheated, so I'm going to even it up a bit. So I'm going to go for a Manchester United player because everyone's hating on them at the moment. So I'm going for Chris Smalling at home to a pretty poor Newcastle side. I think people are ignoring Manchester United this week for a very good fixture, and I think they will beat Newcastle because of all the press talk and things like that. But they're more than capable, doing well there. 2.2% ownership. He scored already, and he's looking for his 6th straight league start. Newcastle among the bottom 4 for shots conceded. They lost to Spurs, Chelsea, Man City, and Arsenal so far, so they're not good against these big sides. Newcastle have 1 goal on the road and have the lowest shot tally away from home, just 21. Points at both ends of the pitch for Mr. Smalling, please.
And Lukaku as well. He's not a differential because he's higher ownership. But if you're looking for another captaincy option that isn't Kane this week, could potentially look at Lukaku. Don't know how you'd bring him in, but if you could, then he's probably going to do some damage against Newcastle. So David, let's just do this quickly.
Who did I have this week? I can't remember.
You had Sigurdsson.
That's right.
He just missed the penalty, didn't he? Got -1 or something.
No, there was a little bit more after that.
So he got 14 points.
Oh, did he?
But he was your first pick of the season, so you're still be on me. So who you gone for this week?
Yeah. So actually, can I just say one thing, Joe? If Smalling does deliver, can we please on Twitter get a rendition of the Chris Smalling and Phil Jones song, please? I would absolutely love that. Please do.
Yeah, we will attempt to. This is something that David forwarded us, and it left us in shock. It was. Anyway, I'm sure he'll share it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll add it to the link. It's creepy.
So, yeah, keep an eye on his creepy Twitter account tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do
this Smalling Phil Jones song.
But yeah, sorry, I've gone for Vardy this week. Getting back on track. Home against Everton, I really like that. Vardy's got a nice little history against Everton. As been mentioned many times, Everton's defence isn't great. I know they kept that clean sheet against Fulham, but I think Leicester are in a much better shape than Fulham are. And obviously, it's an away fixture Everton as well. Vardy's got 2 goals in his last 2 games and assist as well. He's on penalties, so yeah. And so I mean, again, it feels like cheating a little bit because historically great option, but yeah, 4.7% ownership. I mean, it's mad how many of these. And like was said last week, we're going to keep picking these so-called like obvious picks every week until everybody starts buying them and they're owned by more than 5% because.
I reckon this is the last week we can have Vardy because surely his ownership's going to go up.
Oh yeah, he'll score a brace this week, and then
I mean their fixtures. They've got Everton and Arsenal, and then they've just got a lovely run of fixtures like West Ham, Cardiff, Burnley, Vardy and Maddison, I think in those fixtures is going to be great. Definitely not thinking of Maddison as kind of the one player on my wild card who just isn't going anywhere, because I'm really excited for these
You got a poster of him above your bed, right?
Yeah, not just there, just everywhere, every room I have.
You and Danny Jameson, you're going to set up the Maddison fan club.
It's so nice.
He name checked you as well. He said backstage he was just like, oh yeah, me and Az, yeah, we love Maddison, yeah, and you could tell he wanted to be just like you.
He's a good man. So I'm going for. I wouldn't say who I'm going for yet. Last week was a nightmare. I went for Ali, didn't play. That gives me 2 out of 3 right for the season. But yeah, really disappointed with Ali. I thought that was a good one. I'm going to go for Ozil this week. He scored 2 in his last 3. He's playing Fulham, who can't keep goals out. I think he's pretty likely to return. He's actually looking quite good under this new system. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Won't go too much more about that. So clean sheets, David, you're up first. You went for Spurs last week, who, interestingly, all the teams we went for, as a bit of a spoiler, all got clean sheets last week, and they all won 2-0. So there you go. That's that done. David.
The only team that ruined it was Everton. Well, I shouldn't complain because it was my boy Gilfie, but yeah, they ruined it right at the end. Every match on Saturday was going to be 2-0.
Yeah.
I've actually gone for Spurs again for obvious reasons. I mean, let's be fair to Cardiff. It's Cardiff. I mean, Do I need to explain why? I don't think I do. Really,
I think that's enough. Andy?
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, I feel like getting second pick and choosing Burnley is a mistake, but I don't know if there's a huge amount of standout options this week. I mean, there's some good options, but I've gone for Burnley just because they're playing Huddersfield, and I mean, Huddersfield did okay against Spurs in terms of kind of running around a lot and shutting them down, but they didn't create too many chances, although there was that shot off the bar. I just think Burnley have kind of stepped up their game a little bit in recent weeks. Joe Hart doing all right as well. So yeah, Burnley for me, home to Huddersfield.
Nice. I was next, so I'm going for Wolves again, who I got last week. They're playing Palace away, and Palace haven't scored at home all season, which I found really surprising. And I think the run goes on a bit before that as well. So I don't know what's happening with them attacking wise at home, but they're just not scoring. And I think Wolves are looking so solid at the moment.
So
I know, it's crazy. So yeah, I'm quite happy with my my 2 Wolves defenders this week in my actual team. So I'm backing them for another clean sheet. Joe?
Yeah, I thought I had Wolves last week, but I'll hand them over to you. But I'll go for Manchester United. I'll go for.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, sorry. No, you did.
Yes.
Who did you have then, Az?
I'd say.
Well, they play a similar style. They play
He's
confused.
Much of a muchness.
But no, Manchester United I'm going for. Well, basically, all the things I just said about Chris Smalling, that just applies to all of them now. So Newcastle, rubbish. Manchester United, all the haters in the press and the media bashing them, but they're still the mighty Red Devils, and they shall prevail over the puny Magpies.
Don't forget, Mourinho has won more Premiership titles alone than the other 19. Don't forget that.
It's true. So yeah, I just think I don't know. It's just one of those weeks where I just think they're going to be ignored and they're going to do well, and I'm delighted. Last pick, being able to get a heavy hitting side that are being hated
against Newcastle as well.
Against Newcastle, yeah, at home.
Yeah. So transfers and captains, yeah.
Yeah, so let's move on to that. Let's go back to you, Az, first, because you've got your wild cards. Do you want to? I don't know if you've got your wild card at hand. Do you want to run through who you've got at the moment, and just a couple of the kind of big decisions that you're mulling over? Yeah,
I'll try and do it fairly quickly. So I've gone for Patricio and Fabianski in goal, who you mentioned earlier. They rotate really nicely, actually, and they cover each other well. And I think that it's they're both 2 good goalkeepers in their own right. So I'm happy to play with them each week. So I'm quite happy with that. It's a bit of an upgrade from Pickford, anyway. In defence, I've got Trippier in at the moment, but I don't think I'm going to go with him because I don't really want him after this Cardiff game. So I've kept 4 of my 5 backline. Haven't made massive changes there, and I've got it's either going to be Trippier or Holebas. Holebas gives me a few more options going forward. He kind of enables the team to be how I want it, and I really like his fixture list. He's creating loads of chances. He's on all the set plays. I think he's being overlooked a bit in some of the teams that I've seen. I know his ownership's high, but in a lot of the teams I see on the site and on Twitter, not many people have got him. So I'm hoping he can boost me up the rankings a bit. Midfield, I've got Hazard, Maddison, and Richarlison. and Obiang, who isn't going to play. And then I've gone for Sterling as well in midfield. And up front, I've got Arnautovic, Mitrovic, and Kane. So I've changed 7 players, and I've changed my formation. I've got rid of, I had to get Hazard in, had to get Kane in for this Cardiff game. So I think I'm looking at my old team. I think I could maybe have waited, but for this week, definitely, I'm quite happy, and I'm definitely happy to have Arnautovic going forward, and Holebas.
So the idea with Kane is that it gives you that flexibility to move to Aguero if you wanted to.
Yeah, so I think,
afterwards.
like I said earlier, I think Kane to Aguero next week for the Burnley match looks like a really good option, and then I've got Aguero and Sterling for Burnley at home.
And you're happy or okay with going Salah-less? Because getting Salah in, obviously, you can't do the following week, and it might be quite difficult with a bit for a while. So it sounds to me like you're not interested in Salah for a while. And
so I have got a plan. I've got a plan for Salah.
What's your Salah plan then?
Well, my Salah plan is either don't get him and do Sterling to Mane, and stick with Mane and assume that he can match Salah's output. Which, if Salah doesn't score in the next few games, I think I'm happy to do. If Salah does do all right in the next few games, I can lose Sterling and probably Richarlison, whose fixtures get a bit tougher, and bring in someone like Knockaert and Salah for a -4. So it's not having Sterling 11. It's not that difficult to get rid of him, because obviously doing Kane to Aguero frees up $1 million. So if I do Richarlison and Knockaert, that's another $1 million freed up, which then allows me to upgrade.
Sterling's your cash cow.
Sterling's my cash cow. I want him for that Burnley match.
Because what I'm like with these wildcards, I always want to run from all the players I pick, and I always kind of encourage flexibility. And it sounds to me you've got that with Sterling, in that if it all goes wrong and Salah starts getting hat-tricks against City and Huddersfield, you can get Salah back in, because Sterling's your man there.
And actually, his price, although it puts a lot of people off, for me in this position, it's actually good that he's so expensive, because it means the switch is a bit easier. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking so far.
Yeah, no, that's good. What about you, Andy? Obviously, you've already wildcarded. Nothing. Any changes, or are you gonna hold out this week because you've already got your man Kane in?
Yeah, I mean, Kane will be captain, absolutely, no doubts about that. I'm kind of tempted to save the transfer, because obviously we got midweek games to go this week and international break, so I'm a bit worried in case something happens. But I've got David Silva, who I'm not convinced now is going to play, because he just played 90 minutes, and we know Pep's kind of said he can't necessarily play 3 games in 7 days. And I think something David mentioned earlier about pressing for Man City against Liverpool, maybe they'll put someone else in ahead of David Silva. So I'm not too sure. But I'm currently benching Doherty, and I've recently found out that Crystal Palace haven't scored at home. So I was already not happy about benching him. So I'm always tempted to keep David Silva. If he doesn't play, Doherty will come on. We'll see.
That's a tough decision.
Yeah, and I'm playing Van Bissaka against Jimenez, which I also don't like. So I may just put Van Bissaka on the bench and just play Doherty. But whatever. The transfer I might make, which would then mean Salah will over cost -4 against Huddersfield, or I just wait until Cardiff, is David Silva to Son, and just get another player in for this Cardiff game. And if I have to keep him for West Ham, it's not the end of the world. I just don't know. If I keep the 2 transfers, then I've pretty much got to make the Salah move because of the way I've left my team against Huddersfield, which is not a problem. But yeah, I'm tempted to go for Son. So that'll probably be another Saturday morning decision, but that tempts me just because of the fixture.
Okay, David, what about you? You've got 2 free transfers to wield.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I could do Kane in for a number of options, but I don't really like my route through it, because I said I want to keep Salah for the next couple of games, and then getting Kane would mean obviously I have to take Aguero out, but then my cash cow would be David Silva. And while we've obviously talked about maybe David Silva's not the best, I mean, I obviously got my transfers next week. I could obviously get another City option back in, but I just, I don't want to just completely jettison all my City options and then be kind of panicking the next week. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously I've got to use one because I don't want to waste it. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that I'm looking like I'm going to start all 3 of my Wolves players, which Palace haven't scored at home yet, but it's going to happen eventually, right? And I know Wolves are looking nice, but a little bit concerned there. I mean, Fraser, I could move on. I've thought about maybe using this particular week to change Robertson into Alexander-Arnold, because I think there's a lot of value in that. I think whatever I do this week will be it will feel like housekeeping more than anything exciting. I'm even tempted to, and get ready for this, lads, I'm even tempted to just do 1 transfer to get Hennessy out and Fabianski in.
And you mocked me. And you mocked me.
Because, you know, they say, you know, follow the best. And, you know, one of us has already done that this season.
Wow.
You know, just make it a golden transfer. So, I mean, I don't know if I'll definitely do it, but it's in the back of my mind because there's a couple of games coming up for Wolves where I'm not going to start Patricio. And in the same, it's during that period where I got Hennessy, why I don't want to start him either. And basically, Fabianski kind of looks like the only guy really I could trust to cover Patricio for his difficult fixtures. And I had Hennessy on my wildcard because I could double up on that Newcastle game, and that obviously paid off. So I could do that, but I don't know. Lots of them in are in, and of course, you know, the Kane. I'm Saturday morning, and who's to say that Kane's not? I'm not going to have a nightmare about Kane, and I'm just going to get him in anyway, and just completely sell my soul. Might as well not have said anything on the Scoutcast and just do everything I said.
I should say,
Friday.
There's a lot I could do.
yeah, I said Saturday too. Everyone in the chat is reminding us that the deadline is Friday this week. So if we both wait till Saturday morning, we'll be screwed.
Oh, even worse. I'm going to be sat there. Like getting the scout picks
Imagine
out,
that, missing out on that Hennessy to Fabianski move because you got the wrong day.
Imagine that. That is the time to quit.
For the viewers that have been following the Breakfast Club videos that we do, 2 weeks ago, Neil astounded us with his incredible transfer of Camera to Quainer, which was just electric. But your move from Hennessy to Fabianski is pushing that. Is pushing that.
You never know. It could be an editorial dare. He might have told me I've got to do it. You never know.
Yeah, do it.
We'll see.
Do it. It's the move.
I'll do it Saturday morning, yeah, because that's pre-deadline, right?
Yeah, and do it Friday. And also, I'm starting to think now. We spent all this time with the talking point on Kane and Salah and stuff. I'm starting to think we should have done Hennessy Fabianski now.
Yeah, we should have done
20 minutes.
That's what
I got
everyone's
rid of
thinking.
Brian, so
yeah, I made you talk about Brighton. We almost
you didn't
made
throw
you
up.
vomit into your microphone and camera with Newcastle. Okay, well, I'm going to go next then. I've got 2 free transfers. And I am going to get Kane in for Aguero. And there's only 2 other players that I could want to get rid of or I'm okay getting rid of to free up the 8.8 million I need for that. And that's the Robertson to Alexander-Arnold downgrade. I quite like the look of that because that enables me somewhere down the line when I get Aguero back to actually upgrade Ings to Arnautovic. And Danny Ings is the other one I could move on, but I can only really move him on to a 4.5 or 4.8 or 4.9. Well, and I can't run from that. So I can run from, unlike Mark last season, he couldn't run from Alexander-Arnold. I can run from him, but I can't run from Camera or Quainer. I can't run from these people. So that's what I'm going to do. And the plan is to either keep Kane or get Aguero back in game week 9. So it's a hokey cokey. So I think all of us are doing
some kind of hokey cokey. Yeah.
Some kind of hokey cokey. Except David, who's doing a kind of goalkeeping cha-cha-cha, maybe?
Mine, perhaps, yeah.
But for now, it's been great chatting to you, and also finding out all the different ways that we can get all the different heavy hitters in. I think there's quite a lot of different things for people to look over there. But for now, it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.